What's up, guys? Sun Absolute here. I want to first off thank everybody who watched my last video. Seriously, it's 590 more people than I thought would watch a video of a grown man dissecting weapon animations in a video game. But that's what makes this community great. That's what makes Escape from Tarkov great. It's the minutia. It's getting into the weeds of the statistics and trying to figure out, what do the numbers mean? Tell me, what do they mean? And I especially want to thank everybody who left constructive criticism, feedback, engaged in discussion. This video is going to address a lot of the things that were brought up in that discussion. So let's switch over to the game and let's start. So first things first, I want to address something that I got wrong. I incorrectly stated in my previous video that the recoil soft skill was a mystery and that nobody really knows what percentage it's working at. I'm going to defend myself a little bit here. I don't spend much time in the soft skill menu. I kind of level these skills up passively, and the UI is not exactly the best. I'll show you why. If I start on the far right, the stat gets cut off. And if I go to the left, the numbers start appearing. So when I was doing this video and I went down to recoil and I was looking for, okay, what is this stat mean? I hovered over the tooltip and it's cut off. So the way to view that is switch to this grid view. And then you can now see that recoil control at level 7 increases control by 4%. So thank you to those who gave me this tip and let me know that you can actually see those numbers by switching the view. I appreciate it. Okay, so on to the editing software. All right, so now we're in Premiere. One of the things that was mentioned a few times was the question of, why didn't I show the spray pattern? That's a great question. I didn't show the spray pattern because I incorrectly assumed that the animation of the gun shooting and firing was being affected by the recoil statistic. That turns out to not be the case. It seems as if that the recoil animation is a canned animation that is applied to each weapon model. The difference between having all the mods and none of the mods is almost negligible, which is what I showed in my last video. A bunch of you guys brought up, though, that the spray pattern would be the ultimate tell, and so I should show the spray pattern. And you're 100% right, and this is exactly what this video is going to do. It's going to get into spray pattern. Also, a bunch of you guys brought up that weapon recoils differs from distance. Great point. You're absolutely right. So in this test, I did a close distance engagement, a average distance engagement, or a mid-distance engagement, and then I fired the weapon from further than you probably would ever engage without a zoom optic. So let's start off with our trusty Vepr. And I also didn't do overlays on this version. For the interest of time and speeding things up, I just put the weapons firing side by side. I don't think I need to prove anymore that the animations are almost identical. So let's just get right into spray pattern for the Vepr. And you can see once again, the animations are the same. So let's take a look at the spray pattern. So at that close distance, the Vepr with all the mods, yeah, it's a tighter grouping. Is it? I mean, so is the one without the mods. So you can see there. All right, now we're gonna run to our mid distance, which is by these blue boxes here. And this is sort of the engagement that I think is the average distance you would engage a target in the game. All right, let's take a look at that. And again, this was the unmodded Vepr, and this was the modded Vepr. These are all lethal kill shots, center mass. I mean, again, tighter grouping. This one had a little stray bullet. Other than that, I don't really see much of a difference. I mean, yeah, its spray pattern is tighter with all the mods, but it isn't It isn't drastically different. All right, so now we're gonna run over and do, head over to the back of this little area here by the fuel tank and shoot from a much further distance. Geronimo! Okay. So at that distance, there's there's really not much of a difference. This right here is our unmodded Vepr, this spray pattern, and this is our modded Vepr. If anything, the unmodded Vepr has a tighter spray pattern because there are more bullet hole center mass. This has some missing here, but I would call this a toss-up at that distance, and it's something that seems to be echoed throughout the video, is that it is kind of a toss-up once you get to that distance. The recoil is so wild and inconsistent that it doesn't make sense to even compare them. All right, moving on. We did the AKM. And again, you can see here the modded AKM tighter in center mass. The unmodded AKM had much more rise. The bullets tend to rise a bit more, but the first shot is dead on, and then you see the rise in the bullet spread. But again, you're shooting 7.62 AKM fully auto. Any of these are gonna kill a guy. So at that distance, it's pick your poison. All right, so now on to the average distance. And we can see here now we're getting into maybe it is worth it to mod this gun. Again, though, notice the first shots are dead on. If that's a headshot, that's a kill on the very first shot. Much tighter grouping on the modded AKM, and you can see the spread start to really spread. And so this essentially proves the point that the animations are canned animations, and the actual math firing out of the gun is the ultimate tell. So, and now I'm going to do something stupid that you should never do, and that is fire this AKM at this distance, and you're going to see how ridiculous this is. And nobody would ever do this. But for sake of argument. And again, you see how like the animations are identical, and that's kind of what threw me off and prompted me making my last video. And look at this. At this point, you're fucked either way. I mean, yeah, you can make an argument that yeah, some of these bullets land and some of these don't. But I always find it fascinating how the first bullet always lands dead on, and then the spray pattern begins. And again, this is a wash. None of these are going to get the job done at that distance. And they're, again, it's a toss-up between these two. All right. So I decided to show on my next test the undisputed king of recoil. Okay, so here you can, I just quickly showed, and these stats are the same for the Vepr as they are for the AKM. You start at 296 and the attachments brought it down to 238. One of the users mentioned that recoil statistics aren't linear. And what that means is that if you go from 296 to 238 and that 50 some odd drop in recoil is not going to be as significant as, let's say, a 20-point drop going from 200 to 180. In my tests, that seems to be correct. The higher your base recoil is, the less the stats do, no matter how many points you get them down. So always start with a weapon with really low base recoil, which is going to be our next weapon, which is the AK-74 Mary, which is the undisputed king of recoil in this game. And this is comparing a unmodded 74 Mary and a modded 74 Mary. So let's let her rip. And again, the animation's almost identical. And here's your spread. This is where you kind of get into any of these are optimal. This is a kill shot. That's a kill shot. You can take either one, particularly at that distance. It's when we start moving away that we start seeing the attachments make a little bit more of a difference. But even then, the base recoil on the 74M is just so low that it's totally fine. And again, at mid distance, yes, our modded 74M shooting a bit high, but has a tighter grouping. But again, any of this is a kill shot. Any of this here, like obviously the first bullet and then the rise, any of this spread here is gonna kill anybody using the right ammo. This just ensures you don't miss. I think a skilled player can take a unmodded 74M and really, really slay with it at any distance. And we're gonna take this gun back to by the fuel tank here and shoot it at a distance. And this is pretty interesting. All right, so we can see here that, again, it's shooting a bit high, that our spread at that distance, I mean, look at this here versus this here. That's pretty close. It's pretty close. It kind of proves the point that if you're starting with a low base recoil, that's really all that seems to matter. I mean, yeah, you can make an argument this is tighter, but both of these are significant upgrades over the previous two weapons. And you can certainly take a guy out at that distance with a full auto spray. I mean, think about if you're aiming head or center body, any of this little grouping here is going to kill him, especially if he isn't wearing armor or if he's wearing PACA or level 2, level 3 armor. And the same goes for here. This grouping is a bit tighter. And I'm going to compare the stats here, and you can see base AK-74M versus modded 74M. It's almost a what is that? Almost a 50-point drop, 53-point drop in is that's a 5 or 6? I think it's a 5. A 52 or 53-point drop in recoil, and this is what a 52 to 53-point drop will get you at close distance and at long distance. Let's get that mid distance. And here you go. You can see mid distance. I mean, like I said, any of these are kill shots. Any of these are kill shots. If you're lucky, any of these are kill shots. And, you know, if you're aiming, this is at that distance, I mean, you'd be lucky to take a guy out, especially if he's moving. But yeah, I don't know. It's not as much of a drastic difference as I thought it would be. And on next, we're going to test everyone's favorite gun, the Naked AK, versus the fully modded 74M. I did this because I wanted to show that the Naked AK despite all its disadvantages in ergo and in recoil. I mean, we're talking 100 points of recoil reduction going from a naked AK to a 74M. 100 points. Let's take a look. Look at this spread. Not bad, naked AK. Not bad. Look at that. At close distance, naked AK gets the job done. At close distance, the 74 Mary just rubs salt in the wound. But this is the difference of 100 recoil reduction at close distance. So if you're running around with a 74N naked AK and you're keeping your engagements to this distance, you should have no problem succeeding in the game. And this is at mid distance, and this is where things get interesting. So we're going to start with our naked. And take a look at this. So obviously our 100 point recoil reduced AK-74M is going to have the tighter grouping. But if I may play devil's advocate for a second here, our BlackRock AK gets the job done at that distance. These are all center mass. All of these shots are center mass. And with the face hitbox, some of these stray bullets that rise up a little bit if you're aiming center mass, this hits the face hitbox, that's an automatic kill. That's a one-shot kill. Any of these that hit the head are one-shot kills. But our grouping in center mass, still pretty damn good. This all hits the chest. Obviously, all of this hits the chest as well, but I'm just trying to show you the difference here. And then let's take it all the way to the back. And let's line these up. Okay, the first shot right here was identical. And then when the spray pattern begins, we start to see at a distance the modded 74M is going to win here. I mean, it should win. It's 100 points in recoil reduction. You can see these shots, not bad. A good grouping, especially from that distance. And this is since this is a much more wild grouping. I mean, you even have some shots up here that went, you know, up to the far right, up until this up to this top level of paneling. But you can see center mass is kind of not hit here, and instead it kind of veered left and right where this stayed center. So if you're shooting these guns and engaging at those longer distances, I mean, it's pretty common sense that the modded weapon is going to win and win handily, and you could see that it did here. But at the average distance you would engage anybody in this game, here, 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 and here, our naked AK, I think, holds up admirably to the Recoil King, the modded 74M. And I believe I pull up the stats. Do I? At the end of this? I don't think I did. So, there we go. So, in conclusion, thank you guys for the input. This was really interesting. It seems as if we can glean anything from these tests, that the animation tied to the weapon movement is not affected all that much by the recoil statistic. It seems like it's a canned animation, which was the flaw in my previous video, the flaw in the testing of my previous video. Here we can see the spray patterns to be much more a tell, and the better and the more accurate and effective way to test these weapons and test the recoil reduction with the attachments. That being said, our naked AK still gets the job done and still performs admirably up against a weapon that is in every way superior in recoil reduction. In fact, like I keep saying this, it's 100 points difference. And you can see here the 100 points, what that 100-point difference looks like. So, thank you guys for watching again. I hope this one was a bit more thorough and hopefully was a little more entertaining, and that you gleaned some interesting things from it. I certainly did. I'm learning as I'm doing these videos. I'm learning a lot about how the systems in this game work. Yeah, I'd love to hear back from you guys. If you guys have more ideas, I'd love to make more videos about this, or maybe move on to a different topic. Thank you so much for watching, and may your raids be fruitful. Have a good day.